This is Stas Margaronis, and welcome to the Propeller Club of Northern California and a joint production with the Propeller Club of Los Angeles and Long Beach. Before I go on too much, would everybody please mute themselves so we don't get any echoes? And thank you for being with us. We have a very special presentation today from E.H. Lee, Busan Port Authority, Director of Marketing and International Affairs. Mr. Lee is live from Busan, Korea, and he will be with us shortly. I want to recognize and thank our friends at the Propeller Club of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And David Thornburg, I see you. I don't see Susan. Is Susan here? Susan?
She's coming on right now.
Okay, great.
I just joined. Hi, Stas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan, for all your support and helping to coordinate this. And David, thank you for all of your good work. David, I owe you that interview about your container project, so I've given you your 2-second blurb there. Follow up with me when it's convenient.
Sure.
Susan, thank you very much. We have as you can imagine, a bit of a complicated agenda here because, of course, we're in Korea and here and there. But we will get through this. But is there any opening remark that you'd like to make?
No, just want to thank everybody, and especially the Propeller Club of Northern California for collaborating on this with us. And you may have shared already that unfortunately the Port of Long Beach can't join us today, but we have a great representation from the San Pedro ports. Hello, Gene. Thanks for joining us. But just thrilled to be able to participate in this. And thank you, Mr. Lee. We're looking forward to the presentation. Thank you.
Susan, thank you very much. Before I go much further, I have to just reemphasize it is Maritime Day. We have 2 Maritime Day presentations, the one today, and then the second one is tomorrow, and that is with the Jones Act Carriers, Inland Waterways, and the Navy League. And Jim Patti will be at both of those. But I am going to start by reading the President's proclamation on Maritime Day. A proclamation on National Maritime Day 2023. On National Maritime Day, we honor the thousands of dedicated merchant mariners who serve on the United States vessels around the world. During times of both peace and war, merchant mariners are always there, stepping up to transport equipment, troops, and goods along the globe to make our country safe and stronger. With professionalism and passion, merchant mariners have forged us into the maritime nation we are today. During the Revolutionary War, merchant vessels joined the vastly outnumbered American fleet to help defend our independence. During World War II, as our brave service members battled the forces of fascism, more than 250,000 members of the Merchant Marine volunteered to transport tanks, ammunition, and troops across the Atlantic and Pacific theaters. Many of them made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of freedom. And today, merchant mariners not only help move hundreds of billions of dollars worth of cargo through our 25,000 miles of waterways and more than 360 commercial ports annually, they also crew vessels of our United States Ready Reserve, shipping vital military cargo to help the people of Ukraine defend themselves against Russia's brutal war. My administration remains steadfast in its support of the Merchant Marine as well as the Jones Act, which ensures American workers see the benefits of our domestic maritime industry. We are also making historic investments to improve our maritime supply chains by making it easier, faster, cheaper, cleaner, and safer for ships to get in and out of our ports. We are strengthening our support for licensed merchant marine officers, including requesting $196 million in my 2024 budget to upgrade the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy campus, expand training, and help prevent sexual assault and support survivors. The United States Merchant Marine underpins our nation's prosperity and holds our nation's highest principles: freedom, liberty, and dignity. Today and every day, we honor merchant mariners' service and sacrifice and renew our commitments to stand by their side from sea to shining sea. The Congress, by a joint resolution approved May 20th, 1933, has designated May 22nd of each year as National Maritime Day to commemorate the first transoceanic voyage by a steamship in 1819 by the SS Savannah. By this resolution, the Congress has authorized and requested the President to issue annually a proclamation calling for its appropriate observance. I also request that all ships sailing under the American flag dress ship on that day. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States, do hereby proclaim May 22nd, 2023 as National Maritime Day. I call upon all Americans to observe this day and to celebrate the United States Merchant Marine and maritime industry with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And that is the message from the President on Maritime Day. A couple of quick words. Mr. Lee is the Marketing and International Affairs Director at the Port of Busan. As some of you know, I visited the port in March and met with his team. It was a very interesting trip. The Port of Busan is the 7th largest port in the world, and the new port is one of the most modern ports in the world. And Mr. Lee will be telling us a lot more about that. I want to express my gratitude to both E.H. Lee and Tsunomi Lee for their support and help in making my trip possible. Thank you both very much. Now I am going to introduce our first speaker, and that is James Patti, President International Propeller Club. He's speaking to us from Washington, D.C. Jim, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Well, good afternoon, Stas, and thank you to the Propeller Club ports of Northern California, Los Angeles, and Long Beach for the opportunity to extend a welcome on behalf of the International Propeller Club to Mr. Lee and to all of the participants and attendees. For me personally, it is truly a pleasure to have this opportunity to hear from Mr. Lee as he discusses how ports in his country and in the United States can learn and benefit from each other. As Stas mentioned, I have the honor of serving as International President of the International Propeller Club. And it is great to see one of our strongest supporters, Anik Scott, here with us today. Hello, Anik, it's great to see you again. If I may, I would just like to take a minute or so to point out to those who may be somewhat unfamiliar with the International Propeller Club that there is really no organization of its kind having as diverse a membership of individuals directly and indirectly connected to the maritime industry as the International Propeller Club. This diverse membership is our greatest strength and resource and serves as a tremendous asset to our Propeller Club ports located within the United States and overseas, as well as to the individual members of our Propeller Club. Having this diverse membership enables us to provide an all-inclusive forum for the discussion of critical maritime industry issues, including those relating to climate, the environment, and to the supply chain. And we work diligently to help our members and the industry to develop rational, meaningful solutions. Simply put, we provide an opportunity for each of our members in each of our Propeller Club ports from every segment of our industry to interact with their colleagues and to work together as one to respond to the challenges facing the international shipping industry. We're also committed to using our resources to encourage young people to pursue a career in our industry and to ensure that the general public and government officials understand the importance of a strong maritime industry to support domestic commerce and world trade. I obviously believe very strongly in the Propeller Club, and if I may say, we would be honored if we could include a Propeller Club in South Korea among our members. Thank you again, Stas, for the invitation, and I wish you all a productive and successful session.
Jim, thank you very much for those very kind opening remarks. I am going to just introduce who our next speakers are in order, and then I will allow each of them to come on individually. We have Danny Wan, Executive Director, Port of Oakland; Gene Seroka, Executive Director, Port of Los Angeles; S.W. Lee, President, Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association of Northern California, and followed by him will be E.H. Lee. Danny Wan, thank you very much for being with us. You opened almost all of our big conferences and webinars, and you've been doing that since 2019. I am very grateful that you were able to find time to be with us, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Stas, and thank you for the honor of joining you to welcome our special guest today, Mr. E.H. Lee from Busan Port Authority. And I'm very happy, Stas, that you're based in Oakland, and we look forward to many of the conferences that you hold. To Mr. Lee, welcome. And I understand that that our staff, our Maritime Director, Brian Brandis, and Andrew Wan, our Director of Marketing, had actually visited you just recently. So, and they came back with some really good reports about that. And so I'm proud to say that the Port of Oakland does about $5.25 billion in trade with Korea annually, and with continued growth on the horizon. So I'm very excited to learn from Mr. Lee about the Busan Port Authority working to grow business while moving to, I'm sure one of his priorities is to moving to a zero emissions operation. And while there are many areas we can learn and support each other in this fast-paced world of ports and logistics, delivering globally green initiative to help address climate change is, of course, right now on top of our mind. And I'm sure that Mr. Seroka will mention this as well, and in his leadership in establishing green corridors with ports around the world and Busan ports. We look forward to that conversation as well with you. This initiative, the Green Marine Corridor Initiative, is critical for our maritime industry, as we know. And California ports, along with the Asian ports, and I'm sure the Busan ports, are going to be working on projects to move closer to zero emissions. And in the Port of Oakland here, we are busy changing our infrastructure to upgrade our electrical grid here. We are electric utility. We are exploring hydrogen technology as well as electricity. And we are looking for that capacity to make sure that all the ships and equipment at the Port of Oakland is able to accommodate either the technology in electricity or hydrogen to convert and move step forward to zero emissions. And all of our port operators are now asked to submit their plans for zero emissions. So I'm looking forward to that cooperation with the Busan ports, and I'm looking forward to listening and hearing about your port as well. Thank you.
Danny, thank you very much. Appreciate this. And as always, some interesting comments, especially the Green Port Initiative, which we heard from Gene last year at our Storms, Flooding, and Sea Level Defense Conference, where he was the keynote speaker, where he went into that in some detail. Gene Seroka, thank you very much for joining us. You keep us appraised of many, many issues with your monthly media reviews, and thank you very much for finding the time to be with us today.
Well, Stas, it's great to be here, and we have the opportunity now to talk about our long, rich history between South Korea and Los Angeles, especially the Busan port. At 22 million TEUs, Busan is now the 7th largest port in the world. Just tremendous. And it's the 8th largest port that we deal with here at the Port of Los Angeles, the 6th largest trading partner. So this work over many decades together continues to show the trade between South Korea, the state of California, and the city of Los Angeles remains so strong. In fact, last year we moved about 145,000 TEUs together, and this year we're off to a fantastic start with nearly 45,000 TEUs moved between our two ports. At the same time, that rich and deep relationship goes into other areas. We are sister ports together as designated by both governments, and that brings an even added level of cooperation in not only supply chain, but digitalization and environmental stewardship. Just continued work in that area, which means that we remain so close. Busan is also a founding member of Chainport, a group that was created by the Hamburg Port Authority and the Port of Los Angeles in order to bring digitalization and port connectivity closer together. In fact, Busan hosted the very first Chainport meeting on deck, and it was just a tremendous environment at the Grand Hyatt Hotel there. In addition to all of that work now, we have eclipsed $4 billion in trade together so far this year. And Busan is now the 4th largest trading partner. So we've gone from number 6 to number 4 this year alone. And in fact, imports have grown year over year by an amazing 17%. So that continues to be our strength in growing our business together and taking opportunities like we have to make sure that we're contributing to both of our economies. And to Mr. E.H. Lee and to Songming Lee, who is right here in Los Angeles, representing the Port of Busan, we thank you for your friendship and partnership every day. Stas, thanks so much for the opportunity to have us participate, and look forward for the comments from all of your guests.
Gene, thank you very much. And as always, you put us on watch for the strategic issues, which is our close collaboration between California and the United States and Korea, and how important it is for trade and also for national security issues. Our next speaker is S.W. Lee. He is the president of the Customs Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association of Northern California. Sung Lee, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on becoming the president of CB Fang.
Thank you, Stas. Thank you for allowing me to introduce Mr. Hyuk Lee, or E.H. Lee, on behalf of the Northern California District Export Council and the Northern California Custom Brokers and Freight Forwarders Association. Hello, my name is Sung Lee, and I want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about brief historical information between Oakland and Busan ports, background of Korea's rise as one of the Asian tigers, and the many economic and security cooperation between USA and Korea. First, some historical context about Korea and the Port of Busan. Good place to start for Korea is, for modern Korea, is from the Korean War, which was between 1950 and 1953, ending in signing of the Korean Armistice in July 27, 1953. After the war, US aid set about to rebuild Korea infrastructure, agriculture, education. Busan Port played an important role in modernization of South Korea's transportation and trade. Ever since Busan Port started operations of container terminals, Busan has experienced continuous expansion and development. it has grown to become one of the world's busiest container ports, known for its advanced infrastructure, cutting-edge technologies, and efficient operations. The port's strategic location and extensive connectivity have contributed to its prominence as a major transshipment hub in Northeast Asia. Now, for those that know me, or those that know me about my father, is that he was the owner's representative of Korea Shipping Line in San Francisco in 1980s. He used to tell me that his company was the first of the Korean steamship companies that made a slot charter agreement with NYK and OCL to start a new container service between what was then Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, and the United States. The ships were 3,000 to 4,000 TEU vessels, and Oakland Port was the third largest port in the United States. Fast forward to today, South Korea is a vibrant democracy of the East, exporting Korean culture all over the world, along with household name brands such as Samsung, Hyundai, LG, and Kia, manufacturing automobiles, electronics, and appliances. So it is with my great pleasure to introduce Mr. E.H. Lee, Busan Port Authority Director of Marketing and International Affairs.
Mr. Lee,
Yeah,
good morning.
morning.
And thank you very much for being with us. And again, thank you very much for your hospitality, both to myself and to our colleagues at the Port of Oakland. We welcome you and thank you for getting here so early.
Getting up in the 5 o'clock in the morning wasn't easy, but it's my honor and pleasure to present to the Propeller clubs of Northern California and Los Angeles and Long Beach. So is after my speech that I make a presentation right away?
Do you want to run the video first?
Yeah.
Okay. Please then show the video first, and I make a presentation.
Okay. Well done.
Northeast Asia, leader of the global economy. And at the center, Busan Port. Global hub, Busan Port. Since its opening, Busan Port has seen continuous growth as the main port of Korea. Through its handling of both Korea's imports and exports, and its transshipment of freight from all over the world, Busan Port has helped lead Korea's economic development. Through the accuracy, efficiency, and optimal productivity of marine transportation services at specialized port facilities in Busan New Port, North Port, Gamcheon Port, and Daedaepo Port. Busan Port handled a total of 20 million TEU of container shipments in 2017. Busan Port is now aiming to become a global logistics hub port with a new goal of 30 million TEU in 2030. Located on the main shipping route between Europe and North America, Busan Port is busy establishing a global network to connect over 600 ports in more than 150 countries around the world. Here, with the latest facilities and excellent manpower, Busan Port provides stable marine transportation and port logistics services to customers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Busan Port is effectively managed, dealing preemptively with changes to the maritime environment and shipping alliances reshuffling, and preparation to receive ultra-large container vessels. Busan Newport is a central transshipment port, attracting the vessels of global, mega-scale shipping companies. For this purpose, Newport boasts outstanding port infrastructure, a wide port district park, and an unbeatable connected transportation network. Meanwhile, Busan Northport has an important role as a hub port for intra-Asia shipping companies. Designated as a free trade zone, the Newport District Park Complex is the large-scale business complex that offers high-value logistical services alongside various incentives and tax exemption benefits. Busan Port will expand its optimal infrastructure and port facilities to enable superscale 30,000 TEU vessels to dock, also helping create high-quality jobs and reinvigorate the local economy. Busan Port is currently redeveloping the North Port's rundown facilities into a center of international maritime tourism and destination demonstrating harmony between people, business, culture, and art. The complex aims to become a focal point for the new maritime economy, bringing in over 10 million visitors a year to its eco-friendly waterfront, marina, broadcasting studio, exhibition and convention center, and other attractions. This new maritime capital for Northeast Asia is expected to create 120,000 additional jobs and an economic value of 32 trillion Korean won. Busan Port Authority was established in 2004 as Korea's first port authority, with the mission of cultivating Busan Port into a top 2 global transshipment hub. In line with the 4th Industrial Revolution, bringing limitless innovation and challenges, we have formed a smart port with optimized cargo handling systems implementing clean, green, and eco-friendly policies. Through safety measure and welfare systems for port workers, we have formed a people-oriented port environment. To become a port that the Korean people can be proud of, Busan Port Authority makes the utmost of efforts to create an optimal business environment through the improvement of port-related employee welfare and aid, implementing social values as a public corporation, and leading the global market of maritime transportation and port logistics. Busan Port will become a hub for maritime business, tourism, and port services, and be the center of new maritime economy. From the gateway to Asia to the center port of the world, Global Hub, Busan Port.
Wow. Well, what an opening. Mr. Lee, welcome.
Yes. Well, the video was made about 5 years ago, so I'm glad to inform you that our new video, new promotional video, will be available from next month. So probably I'm looking forward to the next opportunity to play our newest video. So Samidi, can you bring the presentation to the screen? Okay. First, let's go next slide. First, I like to touch upon liner shipping real quick. Then I talk about our the Busan Port business. Next. Well, around 200 containers are estimated to moving around the world, according to jury estimates, and the estimation differs from education, the institution to institution, but 200 million is what they agree on. So East-West trade is the most important trade for our lives, and then North and South, and intra-regional. Next. I prepared some visual aid for your understanding. East-West trade example is North America West Coast, North America East Coast, and North Europe and Mediterranean. Next, this is a north-south trade example, like Asia, Africa, USA, Africa, or Asia, South America, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. That's north and south trade. Next, and it's intra-regional trade. So Asia, Europe, South America, Middle East. Next, Africa, North America, South Asia, Oceania. Next. So these weekly services, container weekly services, are very much like a bus on a fixed route. It's surprisingly similar. So let's imagine that we have five stops, like Shanghai stop, Tokyo stop, LA stop, and it takes 1 hour to complete the route. And you like to provide 10-minute interval service, then you need 6 buses. But in real life, trans-Pacific service, trans-Pacific routes in North America, for North America, it takes 42 days. So to make it weekly, you need 6 vessels. Next. So this is a real life example. 42 days, and you need 6 vessels. Next slide. Next. Yeah. No. Right before. Yes. But sometimes a bus slows down, or they add bus stops. So instead of 60 minutes, let's imagine that it takes 70 minutes. Then you need 7 buses to make to keep 10-minute interval. Or it takes 100 minutes, then you need 10 buses. And now shipping, container shipping, same thing. Sometimes the vessels, they slow steam because to save fuels, or sometimes to reduce emissions. Or sometimes they add port of call. So instead of 42 days, I mean 6 weeks, 7 days, like 10 weeks, then you need 10 vessels because to keep 7-day interval. But shippers wouldn't be happy because their cargo speed will also slow down. Next. The thing is that now that this is happening, 70-day is happening. Because of the emission control, the vessels they slow down. So actually, some trans-Pacific service, 10 vessels are deployed. This is a U.S. East Coast service, 77-day duration. So you need 11 vessels to make it weekly. But instead of a Panama Canal's restriction, the biggest vessel deployed on this route is 14,000. Next. North Asia, same thing. It takes 120 minutes, so you need 12 buses. But real life, North Europe service, 84 days, so you need 12 vessels. Next. This is a real life example, Asia North Europe service. 12 vessels, and mostly 20,000 TEU vessels that deploy, the biggest vessels of kind. Next. But we have shorter services, like Korea, Japan, China service. But it only takes 21 days to complete the whole routing. We only need 3 vessels of 1,000 TEU ship. And Southeast Asia service, duration is 63 days. You need 9 vessels of 3,000 TEU. Next. So overall, the number of global weekly container service is around 1,400. So most of the weekly service, well, the intra-regional takes up the biggest chunk, 1,100. And then a long range, the east-west trade, only 120. Then the rest, north to south, and Europe, Asia, and so all these container service, 1,400 container service, they're providing the goods that we spend. They deliver the goods we buy. Next. The other characteristics of liner shipping is that it has very high fixed cost structure. This is a quite theoretical figure. Well, to operate the container service, the biggest cost element is chartering and fuel cost. Of course, some vessels are owned by shipping line. So actually, a vessel operating cost varies from carrier to carrier depending on fuel ownership, fuel type. So this is quite theoretical figure, and a real life cost would be much lower than this. But I like to highlight how it is expensive, how expensive it is for carriers to operate weekly container service. So one example is Trans-Pacific service. 8,000 TEU vessels are deployed, and per ships, $22 million to $60 million. So you need 6 ships. So it takes $130 million, maximum $360 million. Of course, the assumption is the vessel speed is 17 knots and all vessels are time charter, so it's quite theoretical figure. These days, the vessels are they're much slower, so they burn less fuel. Now here, assumption is that 8,000 TEU vessels they burn 8 tons of bunker fuel per day, but they burn less fuel these days. Now look at North Europe service. Much bigger service, much bigger ships. They burn 100 tons. So 12 ships, $380 million, $1.5 billion. So, and on top of this, this is a weekly container service. Even though they do not have enough cargo, they have to keep running the vessel. So very high fixed costs. Next. So fundamentals of alliances, I believe that it's all about hedging risks. We have alliances in the sky, Sky Team, Star Alliance, One World Alliance. Same thing on the sea. We have 2M, the Alliance, Ocean. Look at this, the table. It's estimated that there are about 100 container shipping lines, but only 12 shipping lines provide east-west trade. But 10 years ago, 20 shipping lines provided east-west trade. So for the last 10 years, well, of course, last 2 to 3 years, they made a very big profit. But before that, they had a very serious deficits, and many shipping lines went under. They go bankrupt. Hanjin went bankrupt, and some alliances, some carriers were acquired by other companies. So for now, 12 companies provide 12 shipping lines provide east-west trade, and top 9 carriers, they form alliances, and 3 alliances here, the blue circle lines, they're independent lines, but they provide east-west trade. Next. Now our transshipment business. Next. Well, Busan is a very unique port in a way that we do not handle LNG, bulk carry, tanker, and car carry. 95% of cargo we handle is containerized. So it is very unique. Well, it is not versatile, but it does give us a very good advantageous footing. I'll get to that later. Next. So we have 4 major trade ports in South Korea: Busan, Yeosu Gwangyang, Ulsan, Incheon. So ton base, Busan handles 440 million tons, but look at the blue color. circle, 95% is containerized. 여수 광양, only 11%. Busan, only 3%. Incheon, 34%. So container-wise, Busan is very unique. I think that it's hard to see those container dedicated ports other than Busan. Next. So first container terminal opened in 1978. Then 0.5 million. In 45 years, we handled 22 million. So 45 times increase in 44 years. Next. We handled 22 million, but this 22 million, it can be divided into a gateway and transshipment. So gateway means import and export cargo. And TS means transshipment. So gateway, 45% gateway. The rest, 55% is a transshipment. Next. So Busan is 7th biggest container port in the world, following Shanghai, Singapore, Ningbo, Shenzhen, Qingdao, Guangzhou. Except Singapore, all Chinese ports. No wonder they're global. They're a world factory. But in terms of transshipment, Busan is 2nd biggest transshipment, following Singapore. Next. So South Korea handles a little less than 30 million of container cargoes. And out of that 30 million, Busan alone takes up 76%, 77%. And Incheon, 11%. But this cargo can be, well, divided into 2 types, like transshipment and gateway. Transshipment, Busan alone takes up 97%. And gateway, Busan, more than 60%, Incheon, 20%. Next. So to understand transshipment business in Korea, you need to understand China and Japan, because, well, I'm sorry, this figure is not updated to 2020, but as of 2021, out of this 12 million of transshipment, China, USA, Japan, they takes up 60%. So you need to understand China and Japan to fully understand the transshipment dynamics of Busan. So next, let's look at Japan first. 2021 GDP ranking. Japan is 3rd largest GDP country in the world, and South Korea number 10. So Japan, basically their GDP is 2.7 times larger than South Korea. But if you line them up in a different order, Germany is number 1 with 12% of GDP terms. South Korea, 80% of our GDP comes from trade. And number 9 is Japan. Their domestic market is very well developed. So their GDP doesn't depend on much on trade. Next. So as a result, South Korea's total gateway, maritime gateway cargo, 17.2 million. Japan, 17.9 million. Not much different. But biggest difference is that Busan's concentration. Busan alone handles 10 million, more than 10 million. But 10 million bears very special significance. You know, the USA is the largest importing country in the world. And the gateway volume of United States number 1 port of LA, its gateway volume is around 10 million. Like actually a little less than 10 million last year. And during the pandemic, for the first time ever, it handled more than 10 million. But Japan, look at Japan. Japan, they have 5 major ports: Tokyo, Yokohama, Nagoya, Kobe, Osaka, and all these ports, their volume is not more than 5 million, so not concentrated. Next. But what's worse is that they have 60 other regional Japanese out container ports, Japanese outports, 60 ports. And the volumes are spread thin. Next. So for the last 20 years, Japanese cargo volume didn't grow much because they don't depend on trade much. But Korea, thanks to strong trade and strong transshipment volume growth, for the last 20 years, the volume grew and grew. Now, our volume handles 5 times more than that of Tokyo. But just look at gateway cargo. Busan doesn't, no, Tokyo or Japanese port doesn't handle the transshipment. So all of the cargo are mostly gateway. So if you compare gateway cargo, Busan handles twice the size of Tokyo, and handles 4 times the volume of Yokohama. Important thing is we need to look at the port from a carrier's perspective. From carrier's perspective, the port needs to provide enough volume so that they can fill up their mother vessels, because it is very expensive to run this mother vessel. Their load factor is very important. Or the port needs to provide very good connection, like Singapore, so that they can easily transship their cargo. But Japanese ports cannot provide these two criteria, both criteria. Next page. I already mentioned carrier's perspective. Their concern is how to best utilize their high value asset. Next. As a result, for the last 20 years, this is a Europe service network comparison. Busan now has 15 weekly container service to Europe. But now Tokyo, only Keihin region, only Tokyo has 1 Europe service, and Yokohama doesn't have Europe service. Oh, maybe they added 1 Europe service last month. But as of last year, only Kobe has 1 container service to Europe, and Osaka has 0. So if you don't have enough volume power, or your port is not good transshipment destination, then it's easy to lose service network. That means your shippers, your importing or exporting shippers will suffer. Next. So I already mentioned that there are 60 other Japanese outports, small outports, and they need to survive too. The problem is that these small outports, they do not have deep sea connectivity. But let's imagine that there is a factory nearby Kanazawa port, one of the small Japanese outports. And if these cargoes are truck transported to Yokohama for export, then Kanazawa port would go idle. So Kanazawa port, they're mostly owned by the regional municipal cities, Ishikawa Prefecture. So Ishikawa Prefecture promote Kanazawa, saying that bring your cargo to Kanazawa. If your cargo is nearby Kanazawa, then your cargo can be exported anywhere in the world by transshipping Busan. So basically, Japanese municipal city and their ports are in a win-win relationship with Busan. Next. So every now and then, we have promotional seminar, Busan promotion activity in Japan, and all these shippers, like Kanazawa, all these Kanazawa shippers are gathered by Ishikawa Prefecture, and any other the ports, regional ports, the municipal cities gather all these Japanese shippers to promote Busan and to promote their port. Next. So the shippers in Tomakomai, they have 2 options. Since they don't have deep sea connectivity, they have blue options and red option. But blue option, 13% cheaper. The reason is from Tomakomai to Yokohama, the inland domestic feeder is very expensive. So from Tomakomai to Yokohama, domestic feeders is more than $2,000. From Tomakomai to Busan, it's less than $300. Next. Yes, Kanazawa to Shanghai, same thing. Yes, Kanazawa to Shanghai, same thing. From Kanazawa to Kobe, truck transportation in Japan is very expensive, more than $2,000. But from Kanazawa to Busan, less than $300. So the shippers can save $500 with a 30% cut in total supply chain cost. Next. Same reason. From Niigata to Yokohama, very expensive. But this slide is actually deceiving you. The reason is that Yokohama doesn't have any direct container service to Savannah. No service to US East Coast as of last year. Actually, they added one service last month. So the cargoes in Yokohama, it has to be transshipped either in Busan or either in Kaohsiung or in Ningbo. Next. This is a weekly container service of a major Asian container ports. Busan has 276 weekly container service, and look at the US East Coast. We have 14 US East Coast service, weekly service. But look at Yokohama and Tokyo. They have a 0 US East Coast service as of last year. Next. So 20 years ago, about 2.8% of Japanese gateway cargo were transshipped in Busan. But 20 years forward, now 9.6% of Japanese gateway cargoes are transshipped in Busan. So this is why Japanese cargoes are transshipped in Busan and why Japanese transshipment rate is high in Busan. Next. Now, we need to understand China, why Chinese cargoes are transshipped in Busan. Chinese transshipment is 3.8 million. So out of 12 millions of Busan's transshipment volume, it takes up 32%. But contrast to Japanese case, in Japanese case, a lot of Japan's transshipment took place from Japanese outports, like 60% came from 60 other Japanese outports. But China, only 9 ports. 94% of Chinese transshipment is happening from these 9 ports here. And we divide this China into 3 different regions: North, South, North China, East China, and South China. North China, we call it Bohai Ring because it's a Bohai Sea. And Dalian, Tianjin, Qingdao is a very important port for Busan. If we consider Chinese transshipment, 3.8 million is 100. 62% of Chinese transshipment comes straight from these 3 ports: Tianjin, Dalian, Qingdao. Next. The reason is because this red arrow is a main trunk route. And if mother vessels are deployed and they need to, if they have to cover Dalian, Tianjin, Qingdao, then it takes whole 1 week to navigate through this Boise area. Next. So this is a just imaginary example. Trans-Pacific service, I said 6 vessels are deployed. Let's imagine that these service actually cover Boise area, 6 vessels. But if they stop making call at Tianjin Qingdao, then they can operate these vessels, operate this service with only 5 vessels. But instead, the cargoes to and from this Tianjin and Qingdao, they provide feeder. Next. So instead of deploying 6 model vessels, they can deploy only 5 model vessels. So if savings of 1 model vessel's savings of vessel operating cost is larger than additional transshipment cost in Busan, then it makes sense. But actually, it makes sense. That's why most of the carriers, they do not provide direct service to Boise. Very few shipping lines provide direct Boise service. Next. So we have more than 40 Bohai-Busan feeder service. That's why we have a high percentage of Bohai's the transshipment ratio, especially from Tianjin, Dalian, Qingdao. Next. But this Tianjin, Dalian, Qingdao, it has a very good hinterland. Liaoning province, Beijing, Hebei, and Shandong province. So if economic development in Bohai region, Bohai hinterland, I believe that it will benefit Busan's transshipment volume. Next. One other example, one other advantage that Busan has. We have a very strong last port of call to North America advantage. And look at, please compare the left side to right side. Left side, Busan is last port of call before the vessel depart to Oakland. Here, Busan is last port of call before vessel departs to LA. This is a last port of call advantage. Look at the right side. Busan is the last port of call. Shenzhen is the last port of call before the United States. And here, the Kaohsiung is the last port of call. So what's the good thing about being the last port of call to North America? Well, to the shipping lines, head-haul load factor is very important. Head-haul, the vessel has to be 90% full to make a profit. But most of the time, it is very difficult to maintain that 90%. So when they arrive to Busan, if mother vessel is not full or is not 90% full, then they can use their feeder service. Of course, they plan in advance, so they can feeder all that cargoes from China, Japan, and Southeast Asia, and they collect it in Busan and make their mother vessel full before it goes to the United States. It is a very important factor. So we have this last port of call to North America service. About the number of those service, it's Busan. It's 4 times larger than that of 2.7 times larger than that of Shanghai, and 4 times larger than Ningbo, and 10 times larger than Qingdao. So that's why that's another important reason why carriers prefer to transit in Busan. Next. As a result, for the last 40 years, global transshipment incidents, they peaked at 28% and now stabilizing at 25%. But Busan's transshipment incidents, next. For the last 20 years, Busan's transshipment incidents started at 36%, but now it amounts to 54%. Next. So the reason that why we place importance on transshipment is because it generates port industry revenue. So the study indicates that 1 T of transshipment cargo generates $150 of revenue around port industry. It's all or nothing. Transshipment, while carriers decided to transship in Busan, well, we get 1 TU. If decided not to, and they go to Kaohsiung, Ningbo, or Kobe, then we get 0. So transshipment is all about all or nothing. Next. Next are the plans for a new automated container terminal. Well, Newport was designed in 1995, and then the first construction started around 2000. Then we first saw 3 berth opening in 2006. In 2022, this is the current picture. Then 2030, it's a future development. Next. Currently, we have 6 container terminals in Newport. Next. And on top of that 6 container terminals, the red colored area, it's a future, not future, the partial, we'll be seeing a partial opening of DGT terminal the latter half of this year. And this terminal will be fully automated. Next. Now, most of the, in Busan, 6 container terminals, existing 6 container terminals, yard is automated from the start. So they are all automated yard. And berth, when we say berth automation, it means unmanned remotely controlled berth. We have the newest container terminal, BCT. It is the only terminal that operate unmanned remotely controlled key crane. Now the April move, we've never done it, but the terminal that will open latter half of this year, they will automate April move. Next. So 6 existing terminals. This is TC, transfer crane in the yard. They are controlled remotely in the office, as you can see on the slide. Next. Now, DGT terminal that will partially open the latter half of this year. They will apron will, or the AGV will be adopted in the apron. Next. So DGT terminal, the AGV is basically almost same as the LBCT AGV, but the charging style is different. I'm not sure this is correct, but what I heard is the LBCT, when the battery runs out, they go into the charging station, they change the battery. But in Busan's case, they charges it automatically charges. I don't know, it might be vice versa, but that's how they different. Charging type is different. Next slide. And one thing that I like to emphasize is that all the container equipment, most of the key cranes, transfer cranes, and those are the Chinese produced one. But this terminal, DGT, we decided to go for the Korean made the equipment. So unlike other terminals, the other terminals, container terminal operating company, they order their own equipment, key crane, transfer crane. But this terminal, we ordered, even before we select terminal operators, we ordered Korean made transfer cranes and key cranes. So as you can see, it's a BPA mark on it. Of course, we will receive a lease fee from the operating terminal. The reason that we decided to do this is, well, this is decided way before the Chinese issue came up, the spiping, but it's DPMC way before that issue. Well, like 20, 30 years ago, Korean manufacturing companies produced the container equipment, but because of China, the manufacturing ecosystem actually vanished. So we decided to revive it again. So so that this is not just one-shot event. It'll be very it'll be continuously. We will continuously order the Korean equipment in our Korean terminal. That's yeah, that's our decision. Next. There's efforts to transition the port to zero emission. Well, this well, I'm not sure that this is the right place to say this, because a Port of LA, Port of Long Beach, they are quite in the lead in zero emission efforts. So most of the ports in Asia were more of a follower. So I like to make it very brief. I mean, most of the stuff here is already, I think, taking place in the United States. Next. So our carbon net zero by 2050, that's our goal. And it's, well, aside from the carbon issue, the PM2.5 issue is quite big in South Korea, because during the summer, during the spring season, we get strong yellow dust from China. So reducing PM2.5 is actually the greater issue than carbon in 5 years ago. But now carbon PM2.5 is both a very important issue for our lives. So we are making efforts from many fronts: vessel side, cargo handling equipment side, green energy, and most of the stuff is pretty much the same from port to port. And I'm sure that Port of Long Beach and LA, they're doing much more than this. So I like to pinpoint the several issues. Next. AMP, we also installed some AMP shore power outlets in some of the container berth. Next. Currently, we are operating port tour vessel. It's called Saenuri. When Stas visited Busan, he also used our the port tour vessel, Saenuri. But this year, we will it's already a work in progress, and this year we will see new port our new port tour vessel. It's a electronically powered vessel. So first electronically powered vessel in port tour area. It's the first port tour electronically powered port tour vessel in South Korea. Next. We are also adopted vessel speed reduction scheme, VSR. As far as I know, the Port of Long Beach, Port of LA, and Port of Busan, and 3 other ports in Korea, these are the only ports that implement a VSR around the world. Next. We are now converting diesel YT to an LNG-powered YT. So already 72% of yacht tractors already converted. We have almost 700 YTs, and about 500 already been converted to LNG. And by 2025, 100% will go green, either by LNG or either electric. Next. 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 And next, yes. And we'll also converted most of our transfer cranes into electric powered. So now Newport they were all electric from the start. 280 transfer cranes, all electric. In Northport, Northport is Old Port. Old Port, 70% were already converted to electric powered. So some transfer cranes, they will not be able to be converted to the electronically powered because of operation reasons. Well, we apply the filter DPF to reduce diesel emissions. Next. And next, solar panel. Okay, next. Okay, air monitoring station, and we didn't have proper air monitoring station, so we now have 4 air monitoring stations in Busan Port area. An additional 12 fine dust monitoring station. Fine dust, I mean, PM 2.5 is very important in South Korea, so we added the monitoring station for PM 2.5. Next. And container terminal, well, container terminals operate 24/7, so they need very strong lighting. But we are replacing the current existing one into with LED lights. So already a few thousand LED lights were replaced, and additional 1,000 will be replaced within this year. Next. Now, some other issues. Next. Stas asked me to introduce the port working 24/7, but to be honest, I don't know what's the pros and downside of the working 24/7, because I've been did this environment for the last like 20 years. So we've been like this. So downside, I cannot imagine working not working at night. It's a port. I thought that port every port has to operate 24/7, but later I found out that ports in Japan and ports in the United States, they don't operate 24/7. So it's I was surprised to know that they don't operate 24/7. But so it's definitely good. I mean, working 24/7, but it's very hard to think that for me, not working 24/7. Maybe because United States, maybe because it's possible because it's a end destination. It's a importing country, no transshipment. But Busan, it's a 50% transshipment. So transshipment not working 24/7, it's quite unimaginable. Next. Yeah, this is our tour boat. We use this boat for many purposes. So next, we invite many young students or educational institutes to experience the port, and especially the young people, sometimes high school students. We get them to experience the port early days so that they have a very positive view about the port, what the port does to their life, how the port generates revenue for people's livelihood, and to achieve that, I mean, this vessel, 12 vessels, did a lot of work. Next. So sometimes we invite those students or the college students to the port and make presentation and introduce our port, you know, etc. So next, I like to say one example how it worked. This is very the little example that we have the vessel operating crew, and he's not on the picture, but one entry level ship crew, vessel crew, he told me that the reason he decided to apply for Busan Port Authority and to operate the vessel is because when he was in elementary school, he used this tour program. So ever since that, he had dreams to work in the port, and so when I heard that, well, our tour vessel program really worked, and I was I felt very rewarded. So this is a very small episode, a story, but I felt a lot from that story. Next. Oh, so this is my presentation. I think we have about 20 minutes Q&A session, maybe. So I hope that you. I thank you for your attention. It's a long slide. It's more than 70 pages long. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much for this. You've given us a really very impressive overview of the port's operations. Let me take you back to the new port and its automated facilities. The cranes are going to be unmanned. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
And everything, all of the equipment in the at that terminal is all going to be electric.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And you are using automated guided vehicles. And I believe that your assumption is correct. I believe that at Long Beach Container Terminal, they have to take the AGVs back and then switch them with a new battery. The system that you described is that you can be charging while you're continuing operations. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, but basically, we have a separate charging station. So they run extra AGV so that while the charging, while the AGVs then require charging, while it stays in the charging station, the AGVs will continue to operate.
Very good. I have a question from one of our members. He wants to know, how is your electricity generated? What is the source of your electricity?
For now, I believe that most of the electricity from the atomic power in Korea, or our atomic nuclear, the portion is quite big,
Okay.
and some are from the fossil fuel.
Okay. Very good. The ship-to-shore cranes, they are manufactured by Hyundai?
Hyundai and Doosan.
Okay. And so
And
this,
some other companies, yes, not just two companies.
so this could be a new ship-to-shore business for people that don't want to buy from China. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What is your expectation when this terminal will be fully operational? You said that it is going to begin operation later this year in the fall of 2023. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it will be fully operational when?
Well, they will go through some calibration period,
Yes.
and I don't know. They're fully operational maybe next year.
Okay. And EH, one last question. What is the capacity, the TEU, annual TEU capacity of this new terminal?
Well, when it's fully open in 2026, it'll be around a little less than 4 million TEU.
4 million TEUs.
Yes.
Very good.
This year they will open partially.
Understood. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. Okay, I asked my questions. Do other people have questions? If you want to raise your hand, and we will direct those. We'll ask Mr. Lee to answer them. Do we have any takers here? Andrew Wong, I know you've got a question. Come on, you've just been there. You know all about what's going on there.
No, EH, good to see you again.
Yeah.
This is a great presentation. Brian and I were speaking about it, after you had given us this presentation about the the strategy that Port of Busan has put in place. So I actually don't have any questions. I just want to commend you on your good work
Thank you. Mhm.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, go on,
Stas, if I could,
please, go ahead.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. It was fantastic. I commend you for everything you're doing in the port. It aligns with so many things that are happening here in California. So it's good to see. I just had a question about the charging of the vehicles in the facilities. Is it, you may have said it, I apologize if I did not hear it, but is it a corded charging or is it a wireless charging, induction?
Oh, well, definitely it's not wireless charging because that requires a high-powered, high voltage. So it's not wireless. It's connected, but I don't know any more details. I
Okay,
need
so
to
it's
get
a
back
cord.
to you.
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. It's just a corded charging. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions? I'm going once, going twice. Okay. Mr. Lee, I thank you very, very much for a very comprehensive view of the world. Korea is a close ally of the United States. We value your insights and your long-term support, and we are also learning from you. And this was a really good example, and I hope that we will be able to continue that dialogue. I know that Andrew and Brian had a very, very interesting meeting with you last March, and I hope that we can continue this. And I want to thank you and Tsunomi very much for all of the work that you have done. And anybody who has any other questions, please send them to me and I will forward them if something occurs to you. We will have the recording of the presentation available on the PCNC website tomorrow, and we will distribute that to everybody who's present today. And of course, we'll send that to EH in South Korea. On that note, I want to thank you all again for participating. Just one mention, tomorrow morning at 0900, we're going to have our second day, which is Jones Act carriers, the Navy League, and inland waterways. Susan, thank you very much, you and David, for supporting us here and bringing your members on board. It was really a lot of fun to be working with you.
Likewise, thank you.
And I hope we'll be able to do
David,
that.
thank you for helping put this together.
Sure.
Yes, David, thank you. So
My pleasure.
from all of us in Northern California and Southern California, we wish our friends in Korea all of the best and that you have a good year at the Port of Busan. And we hope that we will see you soon. Thank you all very much and have a good rest of the day.